Do you remember the first time you saw a film by Hayao Miyazaki? I do, and I think I was honestly too young to appreciate them. I just thought they were wonderful because I felt like I could escape into their worlds. And also because I was told they were good. But the older I get, the more I realize just how magnificent his animation is. So today, I want to try and understand what makes his work so special, and just as equally important, what drives him to continue making them. There's been a lot said about Hayao Miyazaki, and really what I want to do with this video is dig as deep as I can, layer by layer, and also to reveal the essential elements of what make his work so unique. And I think we all know that feeling of wonder, just staring at the sheer force of imagination on show in his work. So I think I'll start there. Miyazaki's visual creations are just on a different level. His worlds became more and more populated with interesting creatures and beautiful flights into a dreamer's mind. Certainly, a deep part of that imagination is rooted in aspects of the Shinto belief that there are spirits everywhere and that they deserve awe and respect. This gives him a license to be creative with bizarre but appealing characters. It's important to note that he doesn't actually write a script. He might write an outline with his plan for a feature, but generally he draws an image and works from there. He aims to capture your interest with intriguing visuals. He builds the stories around these visual scenes. I mean, Totoro was originally just the image of a girl and Totoro at a bus stop, and the story grew out of that. It's really important to understand that he allows these visual montages to lead us through his work.
もうね、本当に何かに沿ってやってんじゃないんですよね。どういう映画にこの映画はなるのかね、それはわからないんですよ。バカバカしい話だけど、この映画のこの作品の世界がどうなってるかわからないってこう言われたことあるんです。千と千尋っていうのを作ってる時にね、こっちだとわかりゃしないですよ。
And working in this way allows the animation to grow and change with its development in a very visual style.
映画って生き物ですね。
その皆さんのような才能のある人と組めたから、自分もいい作品ができたんでね。才能ない人とやってたら、いい作品ができっこないもん。
Like any great animator, he can sit and observe the world from a place that interests him, and then he begins filling the world with life.
世界を美しいって映画を作るんだよね。気がつかないだけで世界を美しいよって、そういう目で見たいだけなんだよ。
I think one of the essential elements of the success of Miyazaki's work is that his worlds feel full. Starting with the worlds they're even just set in. With that, everything in the frame seems to just add to the story. There's a Japanese word, funiki, which translates to atmosphere or mood. It's part of the reason why often these spaces just feel so real, because of the rich atmosphere they strive to create. Yasuo Otsuka believes that Japanese animation emphasizes this idea of strong emotional resonance rather than just gag-based cartoons, which feeds into the deep worlds and atmospheres developed in Japanese animation. Bearing that in mind, you can see why it's important to emotionally anchor these stories in a true world. Eleanor Cameron calls it the particularity of place. The sense that there is a narrative anchored within a larger world. And in order to see that, you have to be an excellent observer, which is what Hayao Miyazaki is.
これね、ただ見てもダメなんですよ。自分の想定したボロがどうやって登ってくんだろうと考えて見ていくと、あ、なるほどという気もしないでもないという。
Miyazaki was originally influenced by European architecture and setting, and in a lot of his earlier work you can see that optimistic view of Europe coming through. But into the 90s and onwards, as he became disillusioned after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Japanese elements began to take a more prominent role, as well as the more immediate space that he lives in.
宇宙に行かなくても僕らはいっぱいいろんなものを周りにね、虫の世界もね含めて。
What's interesting as well is that he gives us the space to breathe in the world that he set the story in. While some deem this technique the pillow shot, a moment of peace between all the action, Miyazaki refers to it as ma. Like a space between a clap. You take a second to break the tension and allow the film to grow in a deeper dimension. And as well as the feeling in the worlds created, the people that populate them are equally important. Crowds bustle and every character's movement shows motivation.
群衆というのはどういうのかやっぱり主人公じゃない情けない人たちじゃなくてちゃんと世の中を支えてる人たちだからちゃんとした人間たちを描くこと。
He's very particular in background animation and checks each set of key animation. Personally, retouching scenes he's not really happy with. Bear in mind, this is happening while he's doing the storyboards. He hasn't even finished the story yet, but they're animating in the background. He expects a lot from his staff.
ちゃんとした人間たちを描くこと。本当に大事な考え方なんだよ。キャラクターを描いてると思ってるのに人間描いてると思いなさい。じゃあよろしく。
But he's very good at describing what he wants and will push people hard to get there.
そういう感じがはっきりあると、ここで毛虫の動き見ると本当にこうゴニョゴニョゴニョゴニョと動いてるから、それが強調されると。
And underneath that push, there is a fundamental rule that Miyazaki has when it comes to drawing. Storytelling is about the characters, so they need their vigor to leap off the page. Here's where the wider depths of Miyazaki kick into gear. He knows that it's important to understand his characters and let them grow organically as he draws.
同時に少しずつ理解してる。この子ならこの次どういう表情をするんだろう。その一つ一つでキャラクターって出来上がってるから映画を作っていく過程で少しずつ分かってくる。
At the heart of his work are very motivated protagonists. They inspire action and are generally not passive at all. They don't tend to sit around and just run things through their mind over and over again, considering things internally. No matter what they're faced with, they just get up and go.
アニメーションっていうのは、意志が筋肉なんですよ。意志を表現、運命を表現する、意志を表現するんです。運命があっても。
And this is where his true mastery shows. boiling all that motivation down into how they move. Take Satsuki and Mei running here. Although they're both performing the same action, you can see a lot of their character in how they move, what their choices are. The younger sibling following the older one, repeating what she says, just to be part of the fun.
だってアニメーションって動かなかったらしょうがないじゃない。中身ないんだから。要するにめんどくせえみたいな。
He pays very close attention to movement, ensuring it goes beyond just a movement, but make sure it's anchored in a real-world observation. You're not just turning for the sake of turning.
ちょっとね、振り向き方がね、大人になってる。こういやだからもっと座敷を見ればわかりますけど、そんなキッと向かない。ここ見るでしょ。はい。ただそこまで機敏じゃないんですよ、生まれたばかりなの。CG のスタッフ見てて、何でも音がすると思ってるけど音がすない。意志がないからです。動きっていうのはニュートラルなものじゃなくて意志なんで、筋肉を動かすのは意志だからね。
Even when he was producing only yesterday, not directing, I want to point out, he couldn't stop himself teaching the new recruits about true observation rather than just assumption.
ぴったりくっついて飯食ってみな。ちょっと座って。こういうのがね、観察で書いてないんだよ。こういうもんだと思って書いてるわけ。
If you're not achieving the level he wants, he can turn from the kind of Santa Claus vision people have of him into a very hard taskmaster.
不機嫌で痛い人間なんですよ、本来。自分の考えに全部浸っていたいんです。だけどそれじゃならないなと思うから、なるべく笑顔を浮かべてる人間なんです。みんなそういうもの持ってるでしょ。その時になんか優しい顔してますねとか、笑顔が浮かべていると思う。映画はそういう時間に作るんだよ。
Now, these strong characters seem to be projections of what he wished he was, despite all his mistakes. It roots directly into his childhood, where the community had to face ruin in post-World War II Japan. But an essence comes through it, concentrating on what remains rather than what is lost. And in this sense, the strong female characters that permeate his films are also thought to be a representation of his mother, a strong, independent woman who developed spinal tuberculosis when Hayao was very young. He still keeps her in his mind. These elements shine a light on a deeper motivation in his work. 動機はね、なんで楽しんでもらいたいか、楽しんでもらえたら自分の存在が許されるんではないかって、無用のものではなくて、というふうな抑圧が自分の中にあるからだ。それは幼児期に形成されたものがなんかあるんだろう。それを別にほじくりたいとは思わない。僕はとにかく人に楽しんでもらうことが好きです。 So I think with this in mind, I really start to understand his push for an incredibly high standard in animation.
とにかくね、理想を求めるんだ、あの人って。理想主義なのよ。すごいよね。子供に及んでそうなのかって。
一番はっきりしてるのは恥ずかしいことをしたくないっていう。恥ずかしくない作品を作りたいっていう。なんか映画できちゃった時に情けない思いをしないことが一番大事だから、ああやっとけよかったってこと絶対ないように、やったけどダメだったねとかまだマシなんだよ。
He understands that it can be impossible to untangle a director from a film, and he wants to stand behind his work, not make excuses, be proud of what he's done.
正直に作んなきゃいけないんですよ、裸になって本当に。いやこれはまあ娯楽映画だからって作ってても、実はその人間の根源的な思想がよく出てしまうものなんです。出すまいと思っても出ちゃうんですよ。それで隠して作ると、そのしっぺ返しが本人だけに来るんですよ。どういうふうに来るかって言ったら、やっぱり正直には作んなかったってしっぺ返しが来るんです。自分に叩いてくるんですよ。 だから絵が作れなくなるんです。
But he's not the only person working on a film, and this expectation of a super high standard can create a lot of clashes.
つまんない空間なんだよ。空間を制限した中で描かなきゃいけないんだ。自分の好きな角度が描くんじゃないんだ。どんだけ俺時間を無駄にしたと思う、このために。だから俺すぐ殺す。次やめろ。誰が悪いじゃなくて、これなんとかしなきゃいけないからなんとかしなさいよ。なんとかすればいいの。半端な仕事じゃないんだって。本当に自分を追い込んで、本当に鼻血が出るまで追い込むことができるかどうか。それで何か出てくるか。出てこないやつもいっぱいいる。出てこないやつも多い。
But he feels the weight of his own expectations too.
才能も日々摩耗してるもんだから。一番大事なのはインスピレーション。どこが違うかなんて分かんないんだよ。それに向かって初めはこういうことやろうああいうことやろうとかね、いろいろこう始めるでしょ。そのこう目標を立ててそっちに向かって進み始めますね。だんだんそのといかなくなってくるでしょ。でここも妥協せざるを得ないとかいろんなこといっぱい重ねながら終わりに行くに従ってその累積がですねどっと不安となってのしかかってくるもんなんです。ですからこう本当はサングラスでもかけてねその映画を見たいぐらいなんですよ。
That anxiety definitely seeps into his work, lining the edges with a deepened message.
飛行機の設計家とか機械を設計した人たちっていうのはこうどんな時にどんなにその時が善であると思ってやってもやっぱり時代の空間の中で機械文明そのもののこう手先になるから無傷じゃないんですよ。呪われた夢なんです。アニメーションもそうです。
But despite his pessimism,
自分一人一人が幸せになることが目的だっていうね、自分が幸せになることが目的だっていうの人生のどうも俺納得できないんですよ。
another element of hope blossoms in his work.
分かる映画って何かってつまんない映画なんですよ。論理でやっていくとさ自分の考えで狭くなるからそれを意識的に壊してみようかなとかそういうことで子供たちはね分かるんですよ。論理で生きてないから。さよなら。またね。どういたしまして。
Remember when I said that he empowers his protagonists with a sense of action, the power to surpass adults and do what is right? That feeling, that motivation seems to stem from one incident when he was a child, something he's talked about several times before, and academic Susan Napier feels that it's a really central point to all his motivations. When he and his family were escaping firebombing of his hometown during World War II in this tiny truck.
トラックの荷台に父と兄とで乗りました。その時に乗せてくださいと駆け寄った母親と幼い女の子を置いて逃げたという記憶は長い間私を苦しめました。母も同じようなことをふと口にしたことがあります。ただ心にトゲのように残っています。
It was a super significant event, and looking at this really helps to understand Miyazaki's motivations. That's why the movement is so important, because it speaks for the will of his characters. So he creates these worlds not just for him, but to inspire the next generation. And in this sense, his films really are for kids, drawing them in with wonder, knowing that they possess an observational power to pick up the details that he puts in. But more than that, he remembers the openness and sense of wonder that they have. It's the reason why Mei sees the little Totoro, because she has not had her childhood violated by adult common sense.
それ大事なことなんです。この世につなぎ止めてるのは子供なんですよ。この子っていうだけじゃなくて子供一般なんですよ。で12月になるとヤギ出すんですよね。 ヤギ覚えてるんですよ。ねえねえいないねっていうのはとっとくから。小さい子は本当によくちゃんとそういうことは覚えてる。人間って生まれた途端に問題が起こるんですよ。それで無限の可能性を持って子供が生まれてくるんだけど、その可能性を次々と諦めていくことなんですよ。何かを選ぶってことは他のことで諦めることにつながるから、結局そうなるんです。これはもうしょうがないですよ。人間の存在そのものはそういうもんなんだから。
And here's where I just want to step a little deeper again. At the core of his films, there is a central optimistic message.
いたんだ。私に生きろと言ってくれた。
生きて。
Originally, Naoko's line was kite, as she called him to her, a more romantic idea. But his overwhelming belief of how we should fight to live would never just let a character walk into death. So he changed it to ikite.
これはだって君は生きねばならないってこう言ってんだから死なないんです。話変わったんですよね。もう絵コンテ通りじゃないんですよ。なんかは生きてって言ってるんですよ。生きてって言ってないんですよ。だから長い反問の挙句セリフが今決まったんです。
He believes that in order to live, you have to continually fight to be better.
今のままでいいのよっていう歌が流行ってんだからね。ありのままで、ありのまま最低だよって僕が言うんだけど、ありのままの人間なんて大体面白い。努力してないで無理して痩せ我慢しなきゃダメだよ。いやもうこの人たちにとっては戦争ってのはもう時代選択できない時代選択できないんですよ。今の自分たちと同じですよ。でも精一杯生きたって感じしたけど。
The vitality these characters show, the worlds they exist in, life literally screams from his movies.
人が生きていくっていう力を尽くして生きなさいっていうね。たおぐる限りの力を尽くして生きなさいってそのだから自分たちが与えられた自分たちの範囲で自分たちの時代にたおぐる限り力を尽くして生きるしかないんです。
The question of living life fully is so important to him, partially out of questioning his own reason to exist, but also his mother's life.
心に対する気持ちというのは僕はほどいてないね。どうすれば僕らはもっと生き生きと生きられたんだろうと時々思ったりする。病気がちってのがあったかもしれないけど、病気がちにもかかわらず生き生き生きるにはどうしたらいいんだろう。
He puts everything he can into careful observations of each scene. And I think there's no greater demonstration for his love of life than when these guys turned up to show him new AI deep learning technology. 毎朝この頃会わないけど身体障害の友人がいるんですよ。でその人は、歩いてくるんだけど片足はほとんど外側に曲がったままだから大変な苦労して歩いてくるんですよ。でその彼のことを思い出してね、僕はこれ面白いと思って見ることできないんですよ。これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね何も考えないでやってるでしょ。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。 Originally, I thought his reaction was interesting because of how he immediately saw that they were disregarding basic consideration of people. But then he said,
極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
and it was in that I understood that it goes against everything he knows. It completely throws away the careful observations that he puts into his animation. And it disregards the value and love that he placed on life, specifically people who struggle to live and they still live fully. And it opens the door to make light of their struggle. On top of that, they had a machine generated rather than a person's hard work and attention to detail. You can actually see the seeds of his next feature develop right here. His next feature is reportedly being developed slowly for two reasons. First is Hayao Miyazaki's age, and second is the vast amount of drawings being done because they're animating at a higher standard with more images per second. His study of people and their nuances led to a real respect of their nature. I mean, even the film is called How Do You Live? And as Miyazaki says,
時代に合わせて作ってるんではなくて、時代の中にいる自分がそれによってかきたてられるものが出てきたってことで、やってない領域があるなっていう感じが、それだけなんですけど。
So now, more than ever, he wants to invite people to discuss how we can live in difficult times. He notes that he did try to ask this with The Wind Rises, saying, I thought about how we should face these chaotic situations we face right now, how we should live in such difficult times. I thought the discussions would be deeper in that sense. So I suspect his next feature will probably be a tour de force about life itself and the dominance of the human spirit. And despite retiring several times, the man cannot stop working, and for a very simple reason.
作品作ってる時だけが生きてる時だからですよ。戦う男であり続けるっていうことが、自分が生きていくっていうことになってるからと思うんですよ。いやいや、もうね、やっぱり死ぬまで作りたいんだと思うよ。
なんかね、映画って作りたいって寂しくなって作りたくなって。いや、そういう言い方しないで。
Miyazaki wants to create that responsible child that told his parents to stop, turn around and pick up those people, let them on their small van. He still feels like he has more to give, lessons of hope to pass on despite the threats circling in.
一本で世の中変えようと思ってやんなきゃいけないんだから。変わりゃしねえんだけど。変わらないけどね。変わらないけど、そう思ってやるのがね、映画好きってこと。
With all that in mind, it's clear that Miyazaki is a master. It's even clearer why his animation is loved so much around the world. There's so much vitality squeezed into his work. Each frame is carefully crafted with a visual wonder. But underneath all that is his deep personal message. A message of positivity put together with fun. Animation literally means to give life to something. And I can't think of anyone else who does it more than Hayao Miyazaki. So I can't wait to see his next feature, even if it's going to take years.
どっかで幕引かなきゃいけないはずですから、幕の引きがいがあるようなものを作りたいと思ってますけど。